What's up, everybody? I wrestled with doing another one just because, last Monday, then, released one Thursday morning. That's what happened with Charlie Kirk. And I'm like, do I want to do another one so fast? And if you noticed on the socials how much I didn't share it, I shared it that first time. I think I might have run it one more time because I just felt wrong. Even though I was just expressing how I felt about the whole thing, I felt wrong, trying to get a number off of it, which, we've seen people doing, on things like TikTok and other social media platforms. I didn't want to be one of those people. I kind of felt dirty, wrong for, doing that. But if you haven't heard the episode and you want to know it, check it out. Feel free. It's the one right before this one. It's actually episode 272, which I kept saying the one before that was because apparently I'm dumb and I can't read. But, since then we've seen a lot of disgustingness, seen a lot of horrible things said. A lot of horrible, terrible things said. And a lot of things that just don't make any fucking sense with this whole entire thing. But again, it's coming out of people on the left's mouth, so of course it doesn't make a lick of fucking sense to anything. It has nothing to do, with this situation or what happened, but we've all seen the people praising it and getting fired, and I hope every single fucking one of them does because it's deplorable, it's disgusting. And everyone just keep running their mouth. Guess what? The thing about the Second Amendment? If you listen to the whole thing, it makes a lot more sense. They just took that small bit and ran with it because that's all they fucking have because, well, what the fuck else have they had for the last decade? It's all they've had. And, it's reprehensible. It's disgusting. It's really just pathetic that after all this time, they still haven't figured all that shit out. But, they're going to get what they did. And all the people that are crying, I lost my job. How am I going to pay my rent? All I did was share my opinion. Guess what? That's all he did. How's he going to make sure his family's safe the rest of, forever? Pay bills, tuck his kids in at night, walk his daughter down the aisle. Do any of that shit, and all he did was share his opinion. And then you celebrated it. I think that's technical definition of FAFO. It's okay for them to do that to him when he just shared his opinion, but we're dastardly miserable people. Because, we called you out and you got fired over, your opinion. Well, he died because of his. So, pardon me if I don't give a flying fuck and no one else does. It's about time someone did, something. Guess what? We're not doing it by burning cities or doing anything fucking stupid. We're just showing, crazy people that consequences have actions. Actions have consequences. I don't fucking know. Whatever the hell it is, made sense in my head until it started coming out of my mouth. But, a lot of that's been happening. And then I've seen a lot of stupid, comparisons, that I'm sure we've all seen that made, no sense when people were talking about, suddenly Kyle Rittenhouse came out crossing state lines. If you're still pulling the cross state lines and that shows you didn't fucking pay attention to any of it. You don't know any of the facts of the fucking case. And once again, you're a fucking idiot. Dun, 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 dun. You're an idiot. You're welcome. Now I saw people doing that. I'm what the fuck does that have to do, with this? And if we're being honest, I'm pretty sure the key witness for the prosecution admitted that it was self-defense. Under oath on the stand. I don't understand how that even came up, but I saw people doing that. I saw a lot of people. Let's go through, let's go. But I got some here. I got one in particular just because, I know the person. You'll never listen to it. But I didn't comment because I'm a person and I didn't feel like getting an international fucking incident on the social media because, I'm not a child. But, if your reaction to Charlie Kirk's murder was at all different than those of George Floyd, let's go with George Floyd, shall we? Let's start there. Guess what? I'm pretty sure we were all mortified when we saw him. Everyone I know was like, Jesus Christ, why? And, he should have been checking to make sure he wasn't doing anything, his knee on there for that long. It was a technique. Could he have checked to make sure he's alive? Yes. Could they have done different things? Yes. But George Floyd, criminal, all kinds of other things. And he died, I believe, on the coroner's report, came up that he also had an undiagnosed heart condition, meth, and then an ungodly amount of times over the lethal dose of fentanyl in the system, which means he was dying right there regardless of the knee at all. The stats of that case and everything he's done have completely come out, and you guys made him out to be, the greatest thing since, colored TV. Can't say sliced bread because, Betty White was before sliced bread. So sliced bread was the greatest thing since Betty White. Moving on. All kinds of just dumb stuff. Walter Scott, apparently killed by the police and fled. The cop, apparently, just from what I saw, quick tried to say that he stole his taser, even though the video shows him dropping the taser after he shoots him in the back when he's fleeing. And again, I don't know about, all of you guys, but when cops do dumb shit like that, we're all normally pretty pissed off too. You just can't tell because, we're not burning the world to the fucking ground over it. It's what we do. We don't lash out like fucking children, when stuff's happening. That's just the way it is. Then we move on to Melissa Hortman, is the one person that voted and said that, legal immigrants in Minnesota shouldn't get health care. We know who killed her. And guess what? We were actually mortified by the person dressing up, the mask and doing all that, doing political hits. We were mortified. It wasn't us that did it. We didn't like it. We were pissed off. We talked about it all the time, unlike, the rest of the mainstream media, just pretended it didn't fucking happen altogether. We were pissed off about it. We talked about it all the time. I'm sure we can go and do a fancy search to see how much, coverage each of them got. We know the answer to that one. But, that was that. And then Jamal Khashoggi. Please don't yell at me for butchering his last name. But he was the reporter, I believe, got by, in Saudi Arabia in like 2018. And then the Crown Prince is like, I have no idea what happened. Yeah, sure you don't. You can say we weren't mad. What? We were outraged by it. We talk about it every time WWE runs a show in Saudi Arabia. We've been calling it blood money ever since then because we know what happened. We think it's fucked that, they're just taking the money to do the show. When shit like that happens there all the fucking time. And, countless others. And but strongly recommend seeking a professional's guidance. You may be exhibiting symptoms of NPD or ASPD. Be well. In other words, narcissistic personality disorder or antisocial personality disorder. Fun fact. Charlie Kirk dies. Gets literally assassinated. Cops weren't involved. He didn't, hold a gun to a pregnant lady's, stomach. Didn't die with crazy amounts of fentanyl in the system. Didn't happen overseas. Didn't have a police incident with Walter Scott and all that. Like we don't like those. Believe it or not, people on the right don't like those incidents. Think those cops should be held accountable if they do stupid shit like that. Whatever it was, if a cop does a dumb thing, we're all for accountability. And then Melissa Hortman, we were all pissed off about that. Notice that we didn't celebrate any of those people dying, no matter how we felt about them. We weren't on social media celebrating it. We weren't. And what in the flying fuck do those people, again, the fuck do they have to do with this incident whatsoever at all? The fact that you're bringing those up and saying that we have narcissistic personality disorder or antisocial personality disorder, you're bringing this shit up, which has nothing to fucking do with it at all, which kind of shows you might be suffering from those things because they got nothing to do with shit. And yet there you are bringing it up into this conversation just for the fuck of it because you're trying to make a point. The point has nothing to do with anything that's fucking happening in this situation. You're just trying to find excuses. That's why it's okay to be angry. Like, if you actually ever listen to anything he said, no reason to be mad. Like, if you listen to the whole thing, you actually take things in context, you would, fully, understand who he was and why we're all, mad about it. But to bring up Kyle Rittenhouse, George Floyd, and like, what? Someone in Saudi Arabia? Like, what the fuck do those things have to do anything with this? What do they have to do with it at all? Nothing. They have nothing to do with any of this. But you stupid fucks just have to bring it up, just to try to find, justification into why you're okay with this and why people are celebrating, why people should be able to celebrate. People shouldn't be able to celebrate this. This is what we like to call fucking disgusting, reprehensible, and, again, an assassination, like on someone who did nothing but just go and talk. It's funny that they're still all calling him, all the things they're calling him. I mean, fascist is still running around, all those things. Like, so let me get this straight. The guy who went and talked to people with opposing views and gave them a microphone and a platform to discuss their feelings, they just had to listen to his, is the fascist, and the person that shot him, the side that shot him and is celebrating it, isn't? Like, do you know how ass fucking backwards stupid you have to actually be to believe that? Like, anyone that takes someone out and does that, well, sorry, you're narcissistic personality disorder, because your opinion's the only one that matters. You're the people celebrating it. Guess what? You're all narcissists. You're the only thing that matters. You don't think about anything, and then you cry because you lost your job because you gave your opinion, even though he got for giving his opinion and being very fucking good at it. Ta-da! Congratulations, you diagnosed yourself. What are the fucking odds that crazy liberals are, self-diagnosing themselves and just projecting it on us? Because none of those things have anything to do with this fucking thing. When it involves outrage, we're outraged. You would know that if you turned off CNN and MSNBC and all the useless shit and actually saw what people were talking about all the time. Like, you would know, but you don't. You just listen to your shit and here we all suck. But as they're going to bring up those numbers, those names, those people, even people overseas, which I might add, we still bitch about now. Wrestling fans out there, we all bitch about it. Right now, the blood money ain't going over to Saudi Arabia from what happened there, right? Yeah, we still do. Congratulations. Now, let's see if we all recognize any of these names that none of them gave a fuck about. In fact, all those narcissistic bastards that are celebrating this voted for the people that made this happen and we're going to voted to make it keep happening. Let's go. Let's hear some names. Let's start with one that everyone knows. Lake and Riley. There's a name. Did you guys give a fuck about that? Wait, you didn't? Because you were mad at us for trying to enforce shit so the shit stopped happening, and then you voted for the people that were going to keep it happening. Forgot that one. Megan Boss, Ava Moore, George Levin, Rachel Morin, Jocelyn Ngari. All these people from 12-year-old kids in there, a mother of 5 in there. Lake and Riley, we all know her story in there. January 2025, 63-year-old George Levin was beaten to death during a robbery in Chicago. 2 illegal immigrants from Ecuador and Venezuela were arrested in connection to the murder. Ava Moore, the Air Force cadet, Air Force Academy cadet, was killed in a hit-and-run jet ski accident. You know how that went. Megan Bose, sorry, I'm not good with names. At least I try. But yeah, that one happened. The decapitated body of the 37-year-old was found in a storage container. An illegal immigrant from Mexico has been named as a suspect. Well, the list goes on and on. Did any of you give a flying cock-sucking fuck about U.S. citizens that were killed by illegal immigrants? Or were you telling us we were crazy for trying to get rid of all of them? Because none of that would have happened if they weren't here in the first place and you guys didn't vote for the people and encourage all of it. Again, narcissistic personality disorder. It's fucking great that I didn't even have to be the one to bring it up. It's fantastic. Kudos to Drew. You'll never fucking hear this. You'll never see it because you don't got the spine to listen to actual numbers. This will be the one he does. But, narcissistic personality disorder. Congratulations. You didn't care about anything. Arena. How about that? There's a more recent one. I don't give a fuck about that. In fact, I saw the mainstream media saying we need to, have sympathy for the, person that killed her because of his mental conditions. Why the fuck was he on the streets after 14 times? Why the hell did he take his sweatshirt off? So you couldn't tell, it was directly him trying to change his appearance. You couldn't notice him in the big red sweatshirt. I'm pretty sure he said, I got that white bitch. So we did all that. What proves he knew what the fuck he was doing. He just doesn't care. His family said he shouldn't have been on the streets in the first place, and yet here we are. Remember, the mayor was mad because, we're sharing the video and she wants her citizens to feel safe. Well, maybe you should just make them this really weird thing. It's called fucking safe. You're a dumbass. None of it has anything to do with fucking anything. And the fact that they're just trying to spin all this and to pull at any, strings they can. Again, pulling the George Floyd card. A journalist in Saudi Arabia from 2018. Everything in Kenosha. Like, you're pulling up all this shit and saying we didn't feel bad enough for that. Now I feel bad for, like, because I know the stats, like in the actual facts of the cases. Because we can read and we don't listen to the mainstream media just feeding us bullshit and falling into it, which is what got us here in the first goddamn place. And shitty politicians lying about all of it. And again, they're all a bunch of narcissists. And they're the fascists. Again, he gave people on the opposite side an open platform to talk. He got taken out for it, and they're celebrating it. Fascism, they take people out, they use intimidation, assassinations, all that. Remember, Derek Chauvin, when his trial was on, wasn't BLM outside saying if they didn't get the verdict they wanted, all hell was going to break loose again? Pretty sure that's intimidation. To get what you want. Sorry, what the good people are showing who they are, and the shitty people are just, coming out in droves to show how shitty they are. And that's why I think, we'll win. In the end, with words and just real action, not just being useless fucking people, because that's what all of them are. If you have to find excuses to bring those people up, you're just a pile of shit. When you had, talking about people like journalists in Saudi Arabia, if you have no compassion for U.S. citizens that were killed by illegal immigrants who shouldn't have been here in the first goddamn place, congratulations, you're a narcissist, because your feelings mean more than anything, any law, any person's life, unless, they're on your side. Congratulations, you're a human pile of shit. Hopefully that came through clear. You are a human pile of shit. You're a garbage human. Like, holy shit. Like, this is, like, you actually are shitty if that happened and that's your excuse. Like, that's what you run to? You're actually just a dumpster fire as a human being. You got no morals. You have no heart. You lost your humanity. Plain and simple. Cut and dry. That's how it is. If you're pulling up that shit and saying that everyone else has all these problems, you're a fucking waste of space. There's nothing you can do to fix that. If this doesn't wake you up, nothing's going to. And then we're going to all have the image of, that happening in our heads forever as a bad thing. It's like everyone that was there as children, all that. Like, you guys are just going to move on because you have no humanity. Again, light, always wins, and the people that do the right thing sooner or later always, come through and win. I think we got this. And we're not going to do it by burning down cities or freaking out. We're just going to, keep using our words and showing people, real life consequences. Like losing your job, losing all this for being a garbage dumpster fire human, because that's what should happen. Because we don't need violence. We have words. And again, you're mad because your opinion lost you your job. His opinion lost him his life. If you can't comprehend how that, is just a drastic clusterfuck that you live in, then I think we've already won.